Welcome back to the best damn training channel on YouTube. As you guys can see, I already started off with some jumping today to get ready for the rest of my lifting. The seated variation I chose is a seated box jump for height. Now I've got two seated variations of jumping that I do throughout the week. Beginning of the week, which is today, Tuesday, first lower body session of the week, I like to do a vertical orientation type jump. So I'm working from a seated position, jumping as high as I can onto a box. Later on in the week, which is a video I did a few videos back, I did a seated broad jump variation where I'm looking at trying to jump as far as I can on each of those. So it's just different variations from a seated position. I love seated jump variations because it trains you to go 0 to 60 very, very quickly. You're going from a static position to exploding as high as you can or as far as you can in as little as time as possible to create as much height or as much distance on those jumps. So I love those two variations of jumps. I usually will start off with seated variations on those jumps, and then I'll take away the box and start doing some more counter movement jumps and doing some approach jumps. So it's a good progression where it's starting off like we're working on explosive power, and then we're working on that transition from loading up, decelerating, and changing direction and trying to explode out of that very quickly. So based on my experience in training, that progression from static variations of jumping into counter movement, approach, that kind of stuff, like those progressions have worked really well for me. And that's how I'm gonna continue that progression throughout this program. And speaking about this program, click the link down below if you want a free 7-day trial. My new program for the Unit Training Club on Train Heroic has launched. It's $29 a month. Like I said, you get a free 7-day trial when you sign up. Everything you see here on this YouTube channel is going to be in that and more. Plus, you're going to have access to a chat to be able to talk to everyone else who's on there. There's competitive leaderboards that you can try to compete with other people. And then you'll have access to me in the chat as well. Like, you can ask me questions. We can talk about training, whatever it might be. All of that is included, $29 a month. Had to throw a little plug in there for the Train Heroic plan. But we're starting off today, block snatches. We're going to do sets of 4-ish. Could be 3, could be 5, just depending on how it feels. We're about 100 kilos right now. This is set number 1. I did a couple warm-up sets prior to this. They felt good, so I'm gonna try to do 4 on this first set here. Felt good. That was a big jump. I went 70, 90, and then 100 on that. So I'll stay at 100 again, do another set of 3 to 4. And then the heaviest I'll probably go today is 105 if I go up. But as long as these are feeling good, we'll make that jump to 105. I'm being a little bit more conservative on the snatch because I haven't done snatches in a long time. Last week was the first week that I did snatches, and I was at 95, felt really good. So I just like, you know what? I'm just gonna add 5 to 10 kilos, keep the reps similar, maybe shave a rep off next week as we're getting into what would be like a heavier week of training in the gym. But I want to be very conservative with this, progress it a little bit slowly. It's more about getting that movement pattern back since we haven't done it for a long time, getting familiar with it again. It's kind of like riding a bike, like you've done it before, you can do it again, but it's like we just haven't been explosive in these specific positions, going from the box to overhead. So it's just building up, being comfortable there, getting back some of that residual strength from everything that we've done over the last 8 months from the last time we did snatches and bringing it back. And let's knock out set number 2 here. What I'm trying to really focus on when I do my snatches is I want to keep my chest over the bar for as long as possible, extend at the very last second to try to get as much momentum into this bar to get it up over his head as easy as possible. That last one was sloppy. But when I say keep my chest over the bar, like my starting position is here. And what I don't want to do is immediately have my shoulders go backwards, because what that's going to do is force my hips to go forward, shoot the bar out in front of me, and that's going to create a lot of space between me and the bar. So keeping the chest over the bar as long as possible, I'm trying to get to here. And when I feel like I can't really push any further before then I have to bring that bar back and explode up, that's going to create a better bar path, keep that bar closer. And then I almost think about, like, I've used this cue a lot with clients before, is I want to feel like I'm lifting my shirt up with the bar. So as I get into that hip position, what I'm thinking about doing is keeping the chest over the bar as long as possible, make contact with the bar, and then I'm lifting my shirt up with the bar to get the bar up overhead. So you want to keep it as close as possible as you're making that transition from below the shoulder to above the shoulder. So that's the focus when I'm doing the snatches here. What is that, 2 sets? I got 4. I said 100 feels good. I'm not gonna push it. I'll be more aggressive next week. I'm still a little bit sore from the first week of training as well. I did a front squat EMOM last week, which you guys will see coming up next. Did the back squats, a lot of sprinting, a lot of heavy sled work. So legs are still feeling like they're making that recovery to being more adapted to the heavier lifting, the more explosive volume that we're doing. So I'll be a little bit more conservative on the snatches today versus building up to like what I felt like my top of today would be, which would be 105 kilos. Oh. Sloppy. All right, we're gonna try to clean that up. I got a little too aggressive in terms of speeding that setup. So we're gonna try to lock it in a little bit on this one. Oh, that was perfect. I just spit. There we go. That was a good set. All right, this next part I'm not too excited about. I was excited when I put it in the program because I know the progression that I have in mind, and I know how this is going to help me get a big front squat, which is one of the things I want to focus on for the Unit 3.0 program, but doing it sucks. We're gonna be doing a front squat EMOM, 2 reps every minute on the minute, with a 3-second eccentric on each of those reps. So 3 seconds down, pop yourself back up, 3 seconds down, pop yourself back up, take the rest of that minute to rest, and then repeat that for 8 total minutes. So we got 16 total repetitions to do here. I did this last week for 10 minutes with 120 kilos, and my legs were pretty damn sore for the next few days. And then I went and did back squats on Friday, which was 3 days later. And then that also kind of fatigued the legs a little bit, broke me down. And then I had obviously a couple days off, sprinted yesterday. Legs are still feeling a little fatigued. Like that first week is usually like gonna be a sore, stressful week because you're trying to adapt to a new training program, a new stimulus. You get into the second week, it's like you gotta grind through that soreness a little bit and you gotta push through. And then third week, usually things start to feel better. You take a deload and then you're good to go. So I'm in that period where it's like my legs are kind of sore, but they're just fatigued. Like they feel heavy. They feel a little bit like obviously max strength effort type stuff isn't there. So the 3 seconds eccentric on each of these at 135 kilos is gonna be brutal, but we're gonna do it because I know this is gonna help build a humongous front squat, which is just something I wanna do. Enough talking, I've got my timer right here. I'm gonna hit start, we're gonna do our first set, and then we're just gonna knock this out for 8 minutes here. Set number 4. manageable. This is a good amount of weight for this 8-minute set too. I don't feel like it's overly hard, but I do feel like I'm getting work done. Like it's not so light where I can just bounce up and down. I feel like the 2 reps is a good amount of reps. Like if I were to do 3, obviously that increases the overall repetitions you're doing by 30%, which is a huge jump, but I feel like 3 would be a lot. So I feel like 16 total reps, this 8-minute EMOM, to the weight that I'm at, which my max, last time I maxed out was 220. So 135 is like probably around 60%, maybe just above 60%. And there you have it, 8-minute EMOM, 2 reps, 3-second eccentric, 16 total reps done. I like it. So I'm gonna take a few minutes here, clean up the bar. We're gonna go finish off with some hamstring work here. All right, we're gonna do some band assisted Nordics today. I got my little janky Nordic set up. I got my band. Band's going to allow me to control the eccentric, get down to the bottom, and also assist me in using my hamstring to pull myself up. Now I like doing it band assisted because it allows me to control the eccentric all the way to extension. You'll see a lot of people who are doing Nordics and they just do like the eccentric portion. They get to a specific point and then they kind of lose tension. They just drop and push themselves back up. The band will allow you to get to full extension at the knee or close to full extension, and then keeping the tension on the hamstrings as you do this, and then you can start to push and continue to pull with your hamstrings as you bring yourself back up to the top. It's not just like a quarter or half eccentric fall and bounce back up to the top. This is going to allow you to get more tension throughout the entirety of that range of motion, throughout the entirety of the movement, which I think is more beneficial when you're doing Nordics. But you guys have seen me do Nordics on here a bunch of times. There's nothing particularly new about this. And I'm trying to keep this channel a little bit more interesting for you guys. Now, I told the story before about my MVP trophy and how I haven't received that and the background story to that. And you guys seem to enjoy learning a little bit more about my life. Now, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and I don't remember the exact route that this conversation went, but it ended up with me telling the story about the time that I got a lap dance from Tina Turner. And I woke up this morning, I'm still thinking about it because I haven't thought about this in a long time. This was probably back in 2012 when this happened. I decided I'm gonna tell the story today about the time that I got a lap dance from Tina Turner. But first, I'll show you guys what this first set on these eccentric Nordics is gonna be. So I'm keeping this band away from my shoulders a little bit, that way I can push off the ground once I get down to that bottom position. But what I'm looking at doing is really just a little bit too much there, is controlling the eccentric. And then using the hamstrings to pull myself back up to the top. And as I'm doing those eccentrics, I'm not focused on like a specific amount of time. I just want to feel in control all the way down to the bottom and then initiate that pull with the hamstrings, trying to help assist myself with the band back to the top. But this was back in 2012. I was dating somebody at the time who invited me to go out to a bar, and this bar was going to have a show. And she was like, we're going to go out with all of my teammates from softball that they played college together, which is an important aspect of this story. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll go meet your friends. We'll go out to this show. We'll go to a bar. Sounds like a great time. So meet up with her. We go to the bar. Now, it's not a bar that I'm familiar with. It's not a bar within my hometown. It's like the next town over. We pull up to the bar and I'm like, I've never seen this place. I've never heard of this place. Now, I grew up in Tacoma, Washington. There's a few 100,000 people there. So it's not uncommon to find a place that you've never seen before, or at least haven't frequented, especially with me, because I don't drink very often, and I didn't drink very often back then as well. So we pull up this bar and I'm like, man, I'm unfamiliar with this territory. And we walk inside, and I immediately realized why I'm unfamiliar with this territory. And I said an important piece of this story was the fact that we were going out with her softball team. Now, I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but I know a lot of women who play college softball who are also into women. And this was that type of bar. It was one of those bars where it was largely, I don't want to say it's a gay bar, because I feel like when you say gay bar, it's like you're thinking about men. This was largely women. So I don't know if it's a lesbian bar or if it's just like an LGBTQ bar or whatever it was, but it was definitely inviting to the lesbian crowd that night. So we get in there, I'm like, okay, this is why I've never been to this place before. We sit down, we got this table. I'm sitting at the end of this long table. She's got her whole team here. There's like 10, 12 people total that are at this table. And the lights dim down a little bit. There's a stage in the corner area and the show starts. And the show, the first performer comes out. I hear this Justin Timberlake song come on. The first performer comes out, I'm looking at him like, okay, this is that is a woman dressed up as Justin Timberlake singing a Justin Timberlake song. I immediately was like, all right, I'm in like a lesbian bar. This is some sort of drag show-esque type thing that's going on right now. Cool, right? I wasn't against it. I was just like, I'll take the experience as it is because I've never been here before. And to be fair, Justin Timberlake fucking rocked. Now, whoever this woman was that was dressed up like Justin Timberlake sounded just like Justin Timberlake. She was actually singing this song. I thought it was incredible. The next performer came on. I believe it was either like the very next one or like 2 or 3 performers. The one that at least I remember was Freddie Mercury. And Freddie Mercury had the mustache, everything, also had boobs, fucking rocked it. It was incredible. I was having a good time. I was like, all right, this is amazing. These people look like they had professional makeup artists, and these people looked like the people they were performing as. They sounded like them, and the show was incredible. So there was probably about 7 or 8 total performers. Like the show lasted probably about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. And the very last performer was the one that's like the showstopper. And this performer was Tina Turner. And now, when Tina came on, they made it a big deal. The lights dimmed back down again. The spotlight showed up on like the curtain of the stage. Curtains open up and there's Tina. Now, every performer prior to Tina was like, this person kind of looks like Justin Timberlake. This person looks like Freddie Mercury. They sound like this person. There was a couple that like lip sync because they were doing a lot of dancing. It was more about the performance, not the singer. But when Tina Turner came on, and I tell you, Tina Turner was the only one that didn't look like Tina, didn't look like the person they were performing as. Tina was somebody you did not want to meet in the A-gap. Tina was 6'3", 260 pounds. And not like fat, but also not super jacked, but just like thick. You know, when you see those people who are just large people, it's like no matter what in their life, they're going to be a large human just because they got a large frame. This was Tina. Tina was more Tyrone Turner than he was Tina Turner. The crowd loved Tina, had the little shimmery glitter dress on and everything. So Tina started doing her song, The Big Wheels Turning, or whatever song it was. And I'm sitting at the table still, but like even though there's a show going on, it's still a bar. The atmosphere is like people are talking, there's performers, everyone claps, so on and so forth. Tina is the only one that comes down off of the stage and starts walking around the crowd. I'm having a conversation. I'm sitting at the end of this table, right? Tina's doing her thing. I'm talking with somebody about something, and in a split second, everyone at this table's eyes turned towards me. And I had a fraction of a second where I had the thought of like, what's going on? But I didn't even get the whole what's going on out of my head. By the time I was thinking, what? This giant hand came from over my shoulder, placed itself on my chest, and pulled me away from the table. Tina Turner took me, 210 pounds, sitting in a chair, and just grabbed me and scooted me away from the table. And now I'm sitting in this position like, what just happened? And before I could even react to anything, an eclipse of this giant black leg flows over my head and then lands on the opposite side of me. And before I knew it, I had a shimmery, glittery dress in my face. And Tina was right here singing Big Wheels Turning, shaking her dress. I was getting slapped left and right by shimmers here and there. The whole thing lasted about 20 seconds. It felt like forever. And then she stood back up, went back behind me again, and just like took the back of my chair and just scooted me back in and walked away. And I've never felt more incapable in my life. Like I was 210 pounds at that time, roughly like a little bit smaller than what I am now. I'm about 215 right now, but I'm 210 pounds. I'm also sitting on a chair that doesn't have wheels, yet Tina pulled it like it was just on like an office chair with wheels, just slid me backwards, it completely manhandled me, did her business, scooted me back to the table like I was a child, walked off, and then completed her whole show. And the entire, like when the show was over, I'm just sitting there like dumbfounded. What the hell just happened? There was no like embarrassment. There was no anything. I was just like, I was more shocked that Tina has the ability to like just grab me and shove me backwards and then scoop me back in like I'm a toddler sitting in a high chair about to eat dinner and walk off and do her own thing. And then it was just like, that was it. That's the time that Tina Turner gave me a lap dance. The whole night, honestly, was incredible. Even though, like, it was a drag show, it's not something that I go out and seek. It's like, oh, let me go find a drag show to go to tonight. I got invited to a thing, I went to it, I had a good time, and it left me with a story and experience. I'm never gonna forget the time that Tina Turner gave me a lap dance just because of the absurdity of how it happened, and honestly, the absurdity of what Tina Turner looked like. Like if this person looked like Tina Turner and did the same thing, I don't think that moment would have had as big an impact in my memory. Like it's in my head rent free, it's there. It's never going away. But the fact that Tina Turner looked like she could have been starting for the New York Giants at middle linebacker was the moment I was just like the whole thing to me was just like one of the most bizarre things that I have encountered in my life ever is a lap dance by Tina Turner. So I'm gonna knock out this last set here. I think that's 4. I'm gonna do one more. Oh, there we go. All right, there you have it. Box jumps, snatches, front squats, Nordics. Simple, effective, and we got the job done. So that's gonna be it for today. I appreciate y'all for watching. If you like what you see, make sure to like the video. If you wanna see more, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.